walk us through the process of conversion? So, for example, in stocks, when we went from paper to paperless trading, we called it dematerialization, and then there was a certain process by which the physical paper disappeared, and it became just like a bank account. Bank accounts used to be physical, then it's now all digital and online. That path is somewhat familiar to most people. How does it work in this case?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And so this is kind of where the underlying technology of the blockchain comes in. And when people hear that word, like blockchain is unfortunately over the last few years filled with a lot of crazy stuff, sometimes outright scams, sometimes things that aren't considered very serious by traditional financial players. But the underlying technology really is robust and there's a lot of actual use cases for it. So in our case, the way it works is that the underlying deed or the ownership as recognized by the government is actually owned and held by a very special type of company, a limited liability company here in the United States. And even within that, there's different types of limited liability companies. In this case, it's known as a DAO LLC, which means that on paper, the government recognizes that there is no single owner or manager of this company. And instead, it is managed by a smart contract on the blockchain. And in this case, that smart contract records the digital tokens that represent ownership in this underlying company, right? So you essentially own the asset by proxy. So the company will own the property's deed. And let's say you own 50% of the tokens or the shares of this company. Well, then by proxy, you own 50% of the property, right? And you can own any number. You can own 0.1%, you can own 2%, 5%, whatever, the flexibility that's created is like whatever you want to index into this asset. And this is how the chain of ownership is structured. And that company doesn't own anything else. It doesn't do anything else. The only asset it ever holds is this underlying real estate property. So through this process, we are able to quote unquote tokenize a physical real estate property so that its ownership can be recorded and traded on the blockchain. And that's how we digitize this.